Yes! What is up, everyone? And I hope this video finds you and your loved ones in good health and good spirits. That is easily the most important thing, and that is first. Second, since I just did 2 previews last week for the Premier League and La Liga, and if you haven't watched them, what are you waiting for? I only thought it was fair to do something similar for the Bundesliga, which kicks off this weekend. So I said to myself, Scheisse, let's do another preview. And for the first time in the history of me doing previews, I could be wrong. I've made a lot of internet over the years, so get off my back. I'm gonna ask you to hit that like and subscribe button at the beginning of the video instead of at the end when you guys have already clicked off. And I'm just gonna get the most obvious thing out of the way first. And are you sitting down? Because I got a Captain Obvious bomb to drop on your heads, and it is this. The best team in Europe and the reigning treble winners, Bayern Munich, are gonna win the league again for the 9th straight time. Super Bayern, hey, hey, Super Bayern, hey, hey, Super Bayern, hey, hey, Super Bayern, hey, hey. And here's why. In European football history, there has been a treble winner on 9 occasions. In each of those 9 occasions, the winner has gone on to successfully defend the league title. Except for this one time in 2010 when a certain Jose Mourinho won the treble with Inter Milan and then left to go coach Real Madrid. AC Milan ended up winning it the following year over Inter, and I'm sure they're pretty bitter about it. That being said, Bayern have nothing to worry about, and that's because they have to have the scariest team on the planet right now. And that's because they are currently on a 22-game winning streak. Not an unbeaten streak, which is at 31, but they've won 22 straight games, which is insane. But perhaps the scariest thing about this team is that 7 of the starters in manager Hansi Flick's first 11 are 25 years of age or younger. And the 4 older guys include a player who should be winning the Ballon d'Or this season after scoring over 50 goals in all competitions. And another player who had more assists than Kevin De Bruyne last season, which is super impressive. And one of the other older guys is one of the best defenders in the world, even though he's not even playing his best position. And a goalkeeper that looks like he's back to his old World Cup winning self. And to make matters worse for their opponents in all competitions, they just signed Leroy Sané too. So let's be honest here. These dudes could legit win back-to-back trebles, which has never been done before on the men's side of the game in the top 5 leagues in Europe. However, fun fact for you, the Egyptian club Al Ahly won back-to-back trebles in 2006 and 2007, and New Zealand's Auckland City did it in 2014 and 2015, while Lyon's women's team have won the treble the last 4 years. What? That is amazing. Anyway, given that I'm speaking about Bayern and their expected domination, let's talk about the Golden Boot, since Bayern's Robert Lewandowski has won the scoring title in 4 out of the last 5 seasons. And another fun fact for you, it would have been 5 out of the last 5 seasons if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang hadn't scored a brace on the last day of the season for Borussia Dortmund to finish on 31 goals, one more than Lewandowski had back in 2017. So I think it's safe to say overall that there are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Robert Lewandowski winning the Golden Boot in the Bundesliga. However, I do believe there is someone who could pull off the upset, and his name is Erling Haaland. Despite joining the black and yellow as a teenager in January, the now 20-year-old finished 6th on the scoring charts and finished the season with 44 goals in 40 games in all competitions for Dortmund and RB Salzburg combined. So if he continues to improve like he has done every single season of his career, then why can't he knock off Lewandowski? It's more than possible. However, just for clarification, I'm not saying he will win it, but he could. And speaking of Borussia Dortmund, since we're already talking about them and one of their young superstars, I'm going to save you the suspense and say that they're going to finish in 2nd this season, which really should get its own trophy since Bayern continue to be head and shoulders above the rest. And not only are Bayern just better, it feels like Dortmund's priority is more about making truckloads of money by attracting the best young players in the world, developing them into world beaters, and then selling them off for huge profits. It's what they've done recently with Pulisic and Dembele, and what they're definitely going to do with Haaland, Jadon Sancho, new signing Jude Bellingham, and American Gio Reyna, which is clearly a successful formula if that is your preferred business model. But it is sad to see for us neutrals who want to see the Bundesliga be more competitive at the top again. Also, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of what Dortmund are doing, especially with their emphasis on developing young players and then playing them in meaningful games. So with that in mind, keep an eye on 18-year-old Javier Jesus Carvalho, who joined from Real Madrid on a 2-year loan. I think he has a lot of potential. While they also promoted 18-year-old Emmanuel Farai and 15-year-old Youssoupha Moukoko to the senior team, the latter being tipped to being one of the best players in the world in 6 to 8 years. That's a long time to wait to see if he can do it. So maybe, getting back to the team overall, with a little luck and good health, they can challenge Bayern in the DFB Pokal and maybe even in the league. But it's clear they're young, and I think that inexperience could ultimately work against them in a title race against the best club in the world. And Dortmund are going to do it with a manager in Lucien Favre, who last won trophy as a manager in 2007 in Switzerland, which was a long time ago. That's when Moukoko was almost born. So yeah, it doesn't seem likely that the black and yellow are going to really challenge for the top spot. As for third, I really like Borussia Mönchengladbach. Even though they finished fourth last season, which saw them barely sneak into the Champions League, they were on top of the table in mid-December, and they looked poised to challenge Bayern for the title, and then they choked. And I think they'll learn a lot from that experience in the being mentally tougher department, learning how to win games even when you shouldn't, because that's what champions do department, which should make them even stronger this season. That's what I'm trying to say, especially as the other competitors for this exclusive third spot have dropped off a bit. And I suppose Gladbach should thank Chelsea for that, since the Blues took RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen's best players. But just because the other teams are a little weaker, that shouldn't discount Gladbach's moves in the transfer window, which included picking up 2 big loans with options to buy on one, Hannes Wolf from Leipzig, who just 2 years ago was considered one of Europe's brightest prospects before he suffered a very bad leg fracture, and he hasn't been the same player since. So hopefully this can be a fresh start for him. And 2, Valentino Lazaro from Inter Milan, who has plenty of Bundesliga experience after playing 3 seasons with Hertha Berlin. So you add these 2 guys to exciting young talents like 23-year-old Swiss midfielder Denis Zakaria, Matthias Ginter, who is a rock at the back, Marcus Thuram out wide, and main striker Alassane Plea, who had 10 goals and 10 assists in the league last year, and they got themselves a pretty good squad. My only fear, though, is their lack of depth, which could hurt them as they have to balance the league, the cup, and the Champions League, but I think they'll manage. Now, as for who gets the last Champions League spot in fourth, well, we can really make an argument for quite a few teams here, but out of respect for their performance in Europe's biggest club competition after the pandemic, when, it has to be noted, they didn't have Timo Werner in their squad. They were 1 game away from being in the Champions League final, and I thought their performance in particular against Atletico Madrid was superb in all ways, as their young manager Julian Nagelsmann outcoached a grizzled veteran in Diego Simeone. However, missing Timo Werner for 1 or 2 big games is one thing. Missing him for a whole season when he provided 34 goals in all competitions is something else entirely. And not only that, they lose out on the 10 goals of Patrick Schick as well, but only because they refused to make his loan deal permanent. So this was by choice, which means they must have a lot of confidence in 24-year-old South Korean international Hwang Hee-chan, a fully fit Yusuf Poulsen, and the continued emergence of Danny Olmo to fill some of the void that's been left by Werner going to Chelsea, but they won't do all of it, which means I think they're going to have to win a lot of tight games, but thankfully they have the defense and the mindset to want to defend after conceding only 37 goals in 34 games last season, which is super impressive. And with Ibrahima Konate coming back from injury to rejoin Dayo Upamecano, who elected to sign a new deal with the club, they should be locking things down for years to come, but I still worry about who's going to score for them consistently. As for my 2 Europa League finishers in 5th and 6th respectively, well, I'm going to go with Bayer Leverkusen in 5th, who despite losing Kai Havertz and Kevin Volland, who combined for 30 goals and 19 assists in all competitions last season, they got 100 million euros in return for both of those guys, and then they went out and used 30 million of that haul to get Patrick Schick, who had 10 goals for RB Leipzig last season. And it also opens up space in the team to give more time on the field and more responsibility to an emerging young superstar in the making, 17-year-old Florian Wirtz, who became the youngest scorer in Bundesliga history last season. So keep your eye on him. Or this eye. Or whichever one you know what, you can do both. And then in 6th, I'm feeling my friends at Eintracht Frankfurt. That's right, after finishing in 8th, 7th, and 9th over the past 3 seasons, coupled with their back-to-back final appearances in the DFB Pokal in 2017 and 2018 when they famously beat Bayern. This is a team and fan base that has to feel like it's their time to get a taste of the top 6. Now, despite last season being pretty tough for them as they lost 10 of their first 17 games, which, let's be honest though, was to be expected a little bit after losing 3 of their best players in the transfer window. And as a reminder, I'm talking about Sebastian Haller, Luka Jovic, and Ante Rebic, who contributed to 41 goals and 19 assists the previous season, which is not easy to replace. They still had a chance to qualify for Europe at the very end, but they blew a 1-0 lead to Mainz and a 2-0 lead to FC Köln, and that sealed their fate of being on the outside looking in, as they finish in 9th. But with no European competition to worry about, with Andre Silva signing permanently after his 12 goals last season while on loan, and if they can find the form that helped them beat Bayern 5-1 last season, which helped them get their old manager fired from Bayern, remember him, Niko Kovac, and then maintain that form and consistency overall, I think they're going to do it. However, every season and in every league, there's some crazy dark horse team that no one is expecting to do well, like Sheffield United in the Premier League last season. Like, what? They weren't supposed to be that good. What are they doing? So my choice for being the team that screws up my predictions for the top 6 in the Bundesliga is Hertha Berlin. And I say this because they've pumped 70 million into the team since January. They're young, they're exciting, and they no longer have that used car salesman Jurgen Klinsmann as their coach. They actually have someone that knows what they're doing in Bruno Labbadia. And yes, I know their preseason hasn't been great. They just got knocked out of the DFB Pokal last week 5-4 by 3rd division side Eintracht Braunschweig, which is unacceptable. But that's just one less competition they need to worry about. Let's find the silver lining. Also, they have players with proven quality, like former AC Milan striker Krzysztof Piątek. And yes, he didn't have a great follow-up season after breaking out 2 years ago with 30 goals in all competitions, but he's going to score more than the 10 he did last season. So if they can flip some of their 15 losses that they suffered last season into draws, or maybe even a few wins this season, and if some of their players consistently play to their potential, they could get the job done, or they can demonstrate, like they did against Braunschweig, that maybe their very young squad isn't ready just yet. Either way, I can't wait to watch and see what happens. As for my other predictions, I think the recently promoted Arminia Bielefeld will go straight back down despite my admiration for their manager Uwe Neuhaus and the club's determination to keep the books balanced financially. Unfortunately, to seriously compete at the highest of levels, and we all know this, you gotta spend the cash. And I don't think they will, or I don't think they will on players that are gonna actually make a difference. But I'm sure they're gonna be tough to play against at the very least because they've got that pride, baby. I just don't think that pride is gonna be enough to keep them up. And they're gonna be joined by Schalke, who are in a free fall at the moment. They let go of 2 of their brightest stars in Alexander Nubel and the American Weston McKennie. And I'm not sure if you heard about this or not, but they introduced a wage cap of 2.5 million euros for all players, and that's per player, not the whole team, which is not gonna help their cause in securing big names. Like for instance, Mesut could only last like a month and a half, 2 months before he'd go over that line. So yeah, this has been a really long way of me saying I think they're in trouble. Also, just for fun, I think Serge Gnabry is going to be the player of the season. Yeah, I said it. And all right, that is it. That is all I got. So let me know who you think is going to be in the top 6 and where they're going to finish. The bottom 2, the top scorer, and the player of the season. And if you get it exactly right or close to it, I'm probably going to hook you up with some cool limited edition merch. Also, if you want to watch the first game of the season with me, Bayern versus Schalke on Friday, this Friday, I do this fantasy 5-a-side draft using players from both teams. It's a lot of fun, but the only catch is that you have to name your 5-a-side team before kickoff. And the winner, if you're kicking ass, you're gonna get a copy of FIFA 21. So come hang out with me on Twitch. I'll be live 30 minutes before the game starts. Gives you plenty of time to pick your 5. You got it? Good. All right, I'm done talking. I love you all. See you for the Serie A preview that's gonna happen next. Later.